Hi, Vicky. Welcome. And I'm so happy that you get to be on my podcast. It is such an honor to have you here. So thank you for showing up and talking with me today.
Susan, it's so great to be here. Thanks so much. And I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
Oh, okay.
When you were little, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Okay. So that's a good revealing question. Do you want me to tell you the story?
Sure.
Okay. So this is probably the first time I got to think about it in a more serious kind of structured way. So I went to parochial school when I was younger, and I think I was in first grade. No, I was in kindergarten. That's how early it was. And the nun who was teaching the class asked everybody, the everyone first, the girls, how many people want to be a nun when they grow up? And I looked around and all my friends raised their hand, and I knew at kindergarten level that they did not want to be a nun. Like I knew that there was a lot of people that did not want to be a nun. It was kind of like maybe we talked a little bit under our breaths about like how hard some of the nuns were on us or whatever it was, or structured or strict or whatever that is that teachers are in those kinds of school settings. And I didn't answer, I didn't raise my hand. And I was the only one that didn't raise their hand. So um, I was asked to come to the front of the classroom and say what I wanted to be. And I said, a movie star. And that's a little bit revealing to say out loud, but I think maybe that I could analyze that as a therapist for many reasons why I wanted to be a movie star at 5 years old. But uh, I definitely wasn't the right answer for everybody. So the principal was called in and I was asked to say it again to answer that. Had I changed my mind yet? And would I be a nun? And I was like, no, 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 absolutely not. Like that definitely movie star would be my choice. And maybe I was romanticizing, TV and all that stuff. But some of what I felt like happened was there was a real punitive response to that. Like a note was written to my family and I had to be taken home and signed and all that stuff. So it was really not the right thing to say, was to stand out in a crowd, was to be different, was to be not what was the conformed right answer. So that's I'm glad you're asking me the question
Oh,
as we're
thank you
starting
so
off
much
here.
for sharing that. I had never, we had not talked beforehand about that, but what you just told me is exactly what I'm want to talk about, which is right around kindergarten, which I'm a parochial school graduate as well. That's about 5 or 6 years old. And there's some really great data out of the Pacific Northwest that says that when you are about that age, your self worth or your self ego is equivalent to that of an adult when you're about
Ah.
5 or 6. And I love that you stood up for yourself and said, I want to be a movie star. Because that feeling that you had, you knew it was right. You knew that's what you wanted. And no matter what was happening in the room, even when the principal was called in, as if the principal was going to change your mind, you're like, no, that's what I want. That's that part of you that I know that is connected back to what you believe you can do. You can do those things because there's
Mhm.
something about a 5 or 6 year old that's telling you, I can do all the things. I can be the dinosaur hunter or the ballerina princess astronaut all in one lifetime. And I love that you stood your ground. And I
Yeah.
love that you can remember that and recall that because that's the feeling that I try to uncover with adults. But I take this back to I'm a huge fan of children. I love, love, love going into elementary schools. And I had a career where I was able to go into an elementary school and observe the kiddos and come back out. And on one particular occasion, I went into an elementary classroom. It was third grade, and it was third grade math. And I had a whole bunch of math editors with me, but I was not a
Mhm.
math editor. And
Uh-huh.
so we were able to walk into the classroom and my goal was just to get him into the classroom. And so, with the principal and the teacher's permission, of course, we walked into the classroom, and all the kids were at the front of with the whiteboard, with the teacher at the whiteboard, sitting on the little carpet squares. And my math team went that way, but there was one kid that was over on the other side, and so I went that way because I didn't need to go there. I wanted to know why that kid was in the back of the room. And so when I approached this kid, again, third grade, so we're probably talking about 8 or 9 years old, I walked up to this kid and I could see that he had his math book open, but he had some doodles that he was
Mm.
creating some artwork in his math book, and he was writing some things in it. And I walked over to him. He looked up at me and he goes, "My name is Julian, and I am a nuclear scientist." And I'm telling you, without missing a beat, I said, "Oh, well, my name is Vikki, and I've never met a nuclear scientist before." And we shook hands, and I asked to sit down, and I sat down next to him. And I noticed in the workbook that he was doing, he was in the lesson, but he was not doing the math. He had written these high level equations all over his student workbook. And he had pictures of a nuclear power plant. It reminded me of 3 Mile Island, where you could see the three structures. He had that drawing. And he said that right then he started to explain what he was going to do with his life and what he was doing, that he was a nuclear scientist. He was designing this, and he had laid out his whole blueprint of his life right in front of me. And I was a complete stranger, but he had his voice so strong in what he knew he was going to do. And this was about 6 years ago. And this kid had such an effect on me because I thought, how does he know what to do? And where is this going? Where's this kid going in his life? Right. And I was
Mhm.
so moved by what he was saying because he let me in his world
Uh-huh.
because he was so confident in what he was talking about. And so we spent about 20 minutes together. We weren't doing math. I wasn't discussing any math with him. Besides, I'm sure I couldn't do the math he was doing. We were busy doing missing add-ins, and he was busy creating nuclear power plants. So there's a disconnect there. But we connected on the fact that I respected that he was a nuclear scientist in a third grade body, in a third grade little human body. And he respected me because I treated him like a nuclear scientist, right? And then we got up, we walked
Yeah.
down the hallway to a
Uh-huh.
different classroom, walked in, and it was independent study time. So all the kids were doing their independent work, and my math editors went off with the teacher. And my goal was to walk around the classroom to make sure they had pencil sharpened. Do you need your number charts, whatever you're using, your manipulatives? I was there to be the fill-in. And this little girl raised her hand and she called me over and she said, again, third grade math class. And she said, "Can you help me because I don't have a smart brain?" And I said, "Honey, you do have a smart brain. Everybody in this class has a smart brain. We just have to figure out how best to talk to yours." And she goes, "I do?" Just like that. Like
Hmm.
no one had told her that she was smart. No one
Hmm.
told her that she was capable. And the difference between Julian and Anna, because that's what her name was, this beloved little Anna, was night and day. Same grade level, same math class, same elementary school, but she had no idea that she could even do what she was about to do. So we took out manipulatives. I worked with her, and she said, "Can you stay with me the whole time?" And I said, "Oh, honey, I will come back, but I'm going to circle around and see the other kids, and I will come back." So I kept circling around and coming back to her. And it didn't matter what math she was doing with me right there. It just mattered that somebody kept coming around to say, "You can do this. You're highly capable. You do have a smart brain. Everybody in this room has a smart brain." And I'll never forget that time that I walked out of that room and I went back to the principal because we debriefed with the principal every time we would get to see. Of course, the principal knew exactly what we were doing the whole time. And the principal goes, "Well, how did it go?" And I said, "Well, I met a nuclear scientist." And she said, "Oh, I see that you met Julian," which validated what Julian was teaching me, which was not only did he believe he was a nuclear scientist and he was doing the things to get him to the place that he knew he could thrive in, he told everybody. He told me as a perfect stranger, but his principal knew that he was a nuclear scientist without even saying his name, right? So he awakened that side, his original superpower. He was defining what he needed to make sure that he met his goals, his non-negotiables, and he strengthened his voice. Unlike Anna, who still needed the awakening part, because for
Hmm.
whatever reason, her strong sense of self. Remember Pacific Northwest data. Something happened by the time she was 5 or 6, where that was not being encouraged. It wasn't flourishing in her. And so as I learned from these little kids, I put into motion something that I worked on myself and also my team in my previous role. but also how does that, what happens when you live your life where your original superpower is diminished, and what happens when you regain it? And that's kind of the whole idea of me going to these little kiddos to learn from them, because they're
Mhm.
my greatest inspirations of why can't we all be like Julian? Why do we have to diminish our voice? Why can't we all work together and all be strong like this? And so I'm fascinated by the
Mhm.
behavior. I'm fascinated by the human experience and behavior of people, and why you choose to go this path instead of that path, and why did you not listen to your voice over here, but you listen to somebody else's voice over here, and now you're in the wrong lane. And what happens when you regain that, and can you regain that? I really have such hope in people that you can regain that original, so you can awaken that original superpower, and that's the part that I'm working on right now with people. That's
Mm.
kind of my story of how kids
Yes.
inspire me.
Okay. That's interesting. I
Love it.
wonder, like, one of my questions to you was, you know, I love the first question that you started off with the first question. And I think, just like anyone else who's probably thinking about this, the trajectory that I took from that fifth, 5-year-old person, and kind of what you're saying is like what influenced me along the way, whether I held on to that identity or whether that identity was supported, or even, I always think about it as if like I said, if I was going to analyze it, like kind of being seen, right? That would be a way of being seen, of not conforming. Maybe that was some of it. Um, what voices in life do you help you develop it or believe in yourself? And I think I always think about when I started my career out, as I worked with kids also as a child therapist, and a lot of kids from families that were pretty disenfranchised. And I felt like one thing was true, and you probably, this is in research as well, is like it just takes one person, right? One voice that you keep believing in, the sense of self that you get from that one voice. And that voice, you might hear it over and over again, like you can do this, or you can be this, or I see this greatness in you, or this amazing part of you. And that one voice sometimes can carry people. And you always hear athletes telling us these kinds of stories, or scholars, or things like that, that they heard their grandmother said, or or their coach said, or their mentor said. And but what happens to that initial thing? And if it gets somehow reawakened, or maybe it goes away for a while, because you have to learn a lot of stuff in life in order to back yourself up and to stay consistent and to be structured enough to accomplish what you want to accomplish, if that's the trajectory you're on.
Well, that's interesting because, I led the life that I my voice was diminished. I was more like Anna, not Julian. Although now I think I'm more, I think I always had my voice. It just that the how it was not developed, how I could not develop it because it was told not to talk, not to say things, not to feel things. You're just there in the, you're just existing in the world, and you'll find your way, and you'll find your way later, but it won't be now, right? So that's how I grew up, and that's just the I have five brothers and sisters, and we're all pretty much like that. But so I led the life that I was leading was based on what other people thought of me. The values that you had were going to be the values that I should have, or because I didn't really know what I wanted. Although I always I always had a good strong inner I always had a good, strong inner self. I couldn't break that barrier to have it come out. And so as a child, even as a young adult, I cared more about how you thought of me than how I thought about myself, because that's how I thought I was supposed to relate in the world, which is I'm here to make sure I'm um, everyone else is taken care of, and I don't necessarily mean anything yet because I need to make sure everyone else is taken care of before I can take care of myself. Well, as a mother, that never happens, and as a person in the world, that never happens either, because there's too many people to take care of, right?
Mhm.
So I was not leading myself first. So I was not turning inward first. Although I was authentically trying to help people, I was leaving myself behind. And so it wasn't until later in my life when I was medically not doing well and emotionally not doing well. Although the funny thing is, on paper, I had everything because I was winning awards at work. I had teammates that respected me highly. I had customers that didn't want to leave me. I could have had a high renewal rate. I was winning like the biggest sales companies awards you could ever win. But because I had systems and structures in place that I could do that. Where although mentally and emotionally couldn't be there, I put a structure in place to where I could make sure that my work was taken care of because that was super important to me. It wasn't until later on that when I went back to my original superpower where I physically felt something internally happen to me when I was speaking with a doctor and he told me that my health, really good health for me is just within reach. And I didn't even realize it was. He's like, all you gotta do is this, and this, and follow this plan and have some counseling and coaching. And guess what? It's within reach. And I was like, Anna, I'm like, it is. I can do this. And
Mm.
I my 5-year-old Vikki came out and said, we got this. We can do this. And I physically felt something shift in me when that happened. And so I remember that moment. It was 4 years ago. And since then, it's been I put a framework together where I awakened that original superpower. I define my non-negotiables every single day, which are my guardrails that I put for myself. That's important to my values. It may
Right.
not be important to you or to them or to them or to them. And I don't care about that. I could care less anymore. Um, I care that people find me authentic and genuine and I want to help people, but it's me first to make sure that I can present myself as the person that I can be for other people as well. But so I found my purpose and now I'm making connections based on the fact that this is my purpose, where before I was making connections without having my purpose. And so I think
Mm.
what Julian taught me was he found his purpose and he was just connecting people into his world that could be part of his purpose. And when that happened to me 4 years ago, my entire world opened up because I was able now to pull people who were important in what they were doing with their life for their purpose, and we were connecting on that level instead of bringing somebody who was toxic into my level because I didn't have a purpose. And we all have those people in our lives, right? We're like, I can't believe I was with that person. How did that happen? All the bad things that happen from it. And when that person leaves your life, you're like, oh, I can breathe again, right? So
Mhm.
that's what I'm seeing now, which I found my purpose over connection. Before it was connection, and then I'll find my purpose. No, no, no. We all have our purpose here. We all have our original superpower, which is different than everybody else's. You wanted to be a movie star. I wanted to be an ice skater, and I never had ice skating lessons. I just saw it on TV one day. I'm like, oh, I want to be an ice skater. And that never happened, right? But for that one moment, I'm like, I could do that. Of course, right? You think I want to be that. But the thing about what's happening now with me is that it has opened up my world to the framework that I created. Not only worked for me personally because I was able to get on my
Mhm.
health journey and I lost a significant amount of weight. It's been over 100 pounds now, but maintaining that every day is the hard work. And it's hard work every day. But I put my framework together. So in the morning, I know what are my non-negotiables for today. I know I need to work out. I know I need to lift weights. I know I need my protein, my fiber, all my stuff. And that's non-negotiable for me. But also I used it for my sales team when I was in my previous role because a micromanager came in and totally demolished the team. Totally demolished the team because micromanagers have a way of just taking all the energy out of the group because they want all the energy, right? They want all the accolades, they want the glory. And they took all the energy from our group of about 15 people, except for one person. And
Mhm.
that was me because I had my guardrails up and this person couldn't get my energy because I wouldn't let them get my energy. And so I took my own framework and said, we have a purpose here. We help kids gain proficiency in math and reading. We can't let outside influences affect that. And we came together and we had our internal meetings and we became much stronger and we pushed out the micromanager and we found our purpose again. And not only did the sales was just part of it, it just skyrocketed, but more importantly, the attention to the client and what they were doing, and the trust factor that that increased was significant, where we had the highest renewal rate every single year. And it was such a great thing to do because I was also using it on myself personally. I could see the parallel to the two of this is working in the workforce and it's working for me personally. And it's an easy framework to do as long as you can find your original superpower. It all goes back to that 5-year old. And so that's why I'm fascinated with what people can do. The power that you can reframe your life later on is amazing too, because I'm not 30 years old anymore. I'm way beyond that. But the power that you gain now to
Mhm.
realize I had this in me all along. All I had to do was ignite that power, put in a framework, and now I'm leading with my purpose. Has
Right.
really created an amazing opportunity for people to refocus on what's important to them.
Hmm. Yeah, I just want to pull out a few things that you've said because I want to make sure the group is following, whoever's listening is following. So one of the thoughts is there is the idea of fantasy of like, you might see, there might be that like Olympic skate championship, and whoever that was when you were at that age, we all have our people that we saw on TV that were amazing, and maybe we could be like that. We'd love to be like that. So there's one aspect, but there is that like maybe gut sense of I can be whoever I want to be. I can be that person or that being or have that skill set because someone else also believes in me and is reinforcing that. And when we're young, of course, we have to have, if you were going to be the ice skater, you'd have to have a very coordinated system of people that were bringing you to practice and supporting you and putting money into it and all that stuff, or getting scholarships for you, whatever it was. So that, so sometimes we have those people that really support us young. If we don't have those people that support us young, we fall into kind of what I was pointing to earlier, the conformity of whatever's around us, and we're supposed to kind of believe that, or we're supposed to buy into that, or worry about if we don't conform to that, then people might not think about us uh well, right? We're supposed to do something. Something's expected of us. Don't talk. Just go along. Work hard. Be a part of this group a certain way, right? Be managed a certain way. This is how you're going to fit in. If there's that part of us that still is alive, right, and we can feel it, and it wants more for us. It wants the best for us, this voice. And we figure out when we get at a certain age how to reinforce it ourselves, how to create the structure around ourselves to achieve to the goals that we want. Then we get to have that kind of superpower that was the young superpower in us that knew we could be something else, live our dreams out, um, focus for this, to the stars, kind of whatever it was. If we have that in ourselves and we keep developing that sense of power, right? Empowerment. Is that kind of am I getting what you're saying?
You are, and it's very well put. The outcome of this is that you can lead yourself with zero hesitation.
Mm,
Julian had zero hesitation when he said, I am a nuclear scientist,
right.
right? But Anna had no hesitation either when she said she wasn't smart, right? So what what are you trying to lead yourself to? I want to get to my greatest potential with zero hesitation. And so when I know that I'm leading myself from my own values and my own I want to make myself proud of myself first before anyone else can go, great job, great job. I had all the Atta girls and it didn't work for me. But when I sleep at night and I wake up in the morning and go, that was a really good day I had yesterday. Or when I look back at my day today, I'll say, that's a really good conversation I had with Susan. That was a good day today. I want to be proud of me first before anybody else because I want to lead myself with zero hesitation. And I can't do that if I'm waiting to hear your feedback first about me, which is what I
Right.
used to lead with. And I don't lead with that anymore. And I'm
Hmm.
having the time of my life. I'll tell you that right now. When you lead yourself from your values, you then, the birds are singing and the colors are brighter.
Right.
I'm so much more happier now
Yeah.
because
So
I know
leading
I'm doing
yourself
the
from your
job.
own, yeah, values, and also leading yourself from your own purpose. Like finding
Yes.
your purpose and leading from there, like staying really committed to it. Mhm.
Well, it's easier now to stay committed to it because it's authentic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when I'm leading from my purpose, and then I make connections based off of that and with other people that are leading from their purpose as well.
Mhm.
So my network of people have become so much stronger now because we're all leading with our purpose. And so that's so empowering anyway.
Right, right, right. To be around people that are doing sort of similar things. So if someone was trying to listen to this talk and they're like, okay, I want to get some steps here that I could do if I want to start doing this kind of thinking for myself, or I want to get my mindset here. What would be sort of the top three things that you would say to people to start thinking in this way if they're not thinking in this way?
Great idea. A great question. My framework is just 3 steps. So it's funny how it's
Oh,
three.
great.
And you
Okay,
didn't even
good.
know that, Susan.
Yeah, yeah.
One is awaken that value of yourself. Really look back and go, what do I want from myself in my life? What is it that I know that I wanted to be? And even when you say I wanted to be a dinosaur hunter, whatever that emotion is, that's the superpower that you're talking about. It doesn't matter what you turned, what it was. That's that part of you that says I can do the thing, and then you tap into that. You pull from that strength. Define your non-negotiables based on your value. So you know your non-negotiables for the day. You know your non-negotiables for your life. Those are your guardrails where people can't move you off of what you know is authentic to you. And just by doing those two things, you strengthen your voice. So you show up differently in meetings, you show up differently for yourself, you show up differently in your relationships. And when you do that, everything around you and everyone around you changes because they see that light that you have and they want to be like that. And
Mhm.
that's what I think is most important too, is that you're able to affect the people that are around you, not only
Yeah.
yourself.
Okay. And then there's almost like a magnetism effect that happens.
You are going to attract what you put out. That's for sure.
Hmm. Okay. So the three steps are awaken that value in yourself, um, and the emotion of that value, of that thing that you want, and then tap into that and define the non-negotiable.
Mhm. And
Where,
then
where,
strengthen your voice. So
and
it's
then strengthen
awaken,
your voice.
awaken, define, and strengthen. And the funny thing is, as adults, we have a hard time putting that all together. I'm also an everything disc practitioner. So I'm
Hmm.
all about the behavior of people. I always
Okay.
love why are you coming from this point of data when I want to talk about what did you have for lunch? Because I authentically care that you had a nice lunch, but you want data on something because we're all leading differently with our whatever is our first type of personality. And so mine is I care about that you had a great weekend. I don't really care about the data too much. That'll come later. But a data person doesn't care that I care that he had a good weekend. He or she wants to lead with data. So we have to meet in the middle. So I do assessments based on what's your power, what's your strength, what's your what you could work on, and then how do you manage the conflict and come between and become a team. So I do everything DISC certified team building, and that's what I do. We do
Mm.
assessments and team collaboration. So you can lead the team or you can be part of the team that's more efficient because if you don't know what you want, someone else or something else is going to come in and tell you how to act. And I'm telling you, after a lifetime of that, that is not a fulfilling life for me, at least. And so I help other adults get into that.
Hmm. I love it. It sounds like a really nice thought or process to go through in your life to see if you are living authentically and you are really doubling up on your own power and empowerment. It really sounds like that might be a good exercise for anyone who's listening to this podcast of just resetting yourself to remind yourself of how you're living, how you're focusing.
Here's the best part about this, Susan, is that as you know, we are all individuals, and there is no wrong answer here on how you are. It's just who you are. You just have to find that first and then lead from that.
Hmm.
And then you can see yourself moving into areas that you thought you could never get into. That's so
Hmm.
empowering.
Yeah. Yes. Any other tips for the people that are listening or for me?
You know,
Let's go for this
I for
theme.
you, but you're so sweet. The thing is that I don't want to look back on my life and go, because I didn't do this, this didn't happen. Now I can look back every day and just say, because I did this, this happened. And now this happened, and now this happened. Whether you're picking up a weight because you know you want to be 90 years old and sitting up straight and being able to, lift your groceries into the house, or you're leading a team of 50 people and you know that the stakes are really high because we're in an economy where every single thing matters, right?
Hmm.
Um, when you lead authentically first, when you lead yourself first authentically, you are then able to be super fulfilled when you get home, knowing that you're living at your highest level. And that's the best part about all this is that once you reach that, I know a lot of people have used the word aligned, but I think it's a really good use of the word right now is that when you find that alignment within yourself,
Hmm.
you really feel comfortable with yourself. And that's what Julian taught me at a young age. He was comfortable with himself and he was comfortable leading himself the way that he did. And I hope that he didn't know how much he was inspiring me that afternoon after 20
Yeah.
minutes, but I'll never forget that feeling I had with him. It was so powerful. And I try to create that for other people now. But I created it for myself now. And now I'm able to help people.
Hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
best part. I'm able to help people with this.
I love it. I love it. I love the concept, Vicky. It's been really great to hear you talk about what you've been investigating in yourself and what you've been spreading around to the people that you speak with.
Thank you,
So,
Susan. I appreciate your
what
time.
yeah, what are some of the other things that you're doing just as we finalize? Like, where are you speaking? What kinds of projects are you on?
Thanks for asking. It's interesting. I left a really cushy job and started my own lighthouse speaking business. So I'm speaking in community colleges. I'm speaking in educational worlds. I'm speaking in behavioral science conferences. Of course, any women's conference that I'm speaking at as well. I do virtual and in person. I love in person because I love seeing when I ask the audience, "What did you want to be when you were 5?" I love seeing the look on their faces because that's the superpower. And I get that towards me. They don't even know they're doing it. And when they're saying that, I feed off of that as well because it is such a nice feeling to know that we're all able to tap into that.
Mm-hmm.
And but I love I love all of that. And so I literally having the time of my life, getting on stage,
Yeah.
or doing sales trainings, all those things where I'm able to help lead a team where they thought they couldn't reach a higher level. That's really empowering to me because at the end of the day, I really want people to be able to be comfortable with how they are and
Right.
not who they think they need to be.
Right. So you're doing your same formula because I'm doing this, this is happening, right? And
My
so because I'm
framework,
doing
I
so
use, yeah,
and so does it go
yeah.
because I'm doing this, like speaking on stage in person, what is happening?
What when I speak to everyone in person, the audience leads themselves or they leave the when I am able to speak in person to an audience, they leave that day with a framework they can use the
Hmm.
following day because
Right.
they touched into their superpower. And that's what I love. I used to be able to affect the proficiency of children in schools in my
Mhm.
territory, which was so empowering for me. But then when I turned my attention to the adults, I realized there's a whole other population that still wants to feel that same way. They want
Right.
to feel capable, valued, and heard. And so
Right.
when I speak to an audience and give them this framework, this easy framework, they're able to walk away and implement it that very day. And
Right. I mean,
that's what I like.
I feel like I'm going to use it as a guideline for myself to be like to make sure that I am leading in the direction that I want to go, because sometimes I think we do get lost with the millions and multitudes of roles we have in the world and what we're really working on and what are we working on next. And I always think about my life in sort of chapters of what I'm trying to accomplish, but this would be something that helps me have a framework for this next chapter of work that I'm trying to accomplish, is that to keep focused on that 5-year-old, that superpower and use that superpower. I might be using that superpower in a different way, right? As because maybe there's many accomplishments, just like you said, you went through many steps. You left a cushy job to do this because this is also about that authenticity that you want to create in your life. That might be also the other thing is like, how do we continue to develop our next thing that is like, this is what I want to, I did this because I want to create this, and we're still using that. It's like the thread that keeps going in the alignment that we have to ourselves, the original part of ourselves that we're continuing to develop, right?
Yeah, that's super insightful. And I think we talk a lot about multi-generational coming into the workforce
Mm-hmm.
and all the technology that's there as well. But the human connection is still super important. And if you're not tapped into what you need to be valued to yourself, I don't know how you're going to be able to be valued to a team or any part without you feeling like you're overworked or overstimulated or all the things that can happen. The
Mm-hmm.
whole goal for me is to lead myself with zero hesitation. So my first act
Mm-hmm.
is the one that's going back to my personality, whether someone says go here, I'm like, yeah, that's it, my gut says yes, and I just go, right? That just tells me that's it, that's my personality. That's going to get me to the place where I need to go. I want zero hesitation
Mm.
because I want to make sure I'm so tapped in to what I know is the right choice and the right thing. It may not be the right career choice, but it's probably the right choice for me at that moment, which will lead to other things, right? It's that moment of I don't want to hesitate. I want to go right into that because then I can have all the things. I can have all the feelings and have all the emotions and have all the connections that I need when I get into people. I think want to connect with other people. I think that's what they want, but I want to connect with people that are feeding me, not taking away. I think if
Mm-hmm.
we all feed each other, again, purpose over connection, and then I make the connections. Got to find your purpose first, and that's the hardest part. But it's also the easiest part. What did you
Yeah.
want to be when you grew up? What did you want? There's your
Yeah.
superpower. Now take that and apply that to the meeting that you're doing this afternoon. It's that feeling that you can do all the things. Not necessarily that I wanted to be an ice skater. It's the feeling of I could do that. Oh yeah, I could run that meeting. Oh, I could get on that stage, or I could go on that 300-mile walk somewhere. I could do all that, yeah, and make and put the systems and structures in place in order to do it. Because that's where the business side comes in.
Right.
Because Julian was a businessman. Julian was a business person. He was setting up his blueprint right in front of me. He had already worked it out. So then you put the systems and structures in place in order to get things done.
Right. Or that
That's
he
where you,
continues to get the support that he needs to develop himself as he's growing, right? So,
yeah.
and like he might not know how to do that part. And so there's always the parts we don't know how to do, but there's always that like we keep finding the ways to do them, systems and structure in place to work through that part, right? Whatever it is, as long as we're
Yep.
connected to our purpose, always.
It shouldn't exactly, and it shouldn't be super overwhelming if you are really connected to your purpose.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we don't need to do in our life.
Hmm.
But there are some things that I know that if I'm connected to my purpose, I need to do that. I need to have conversations with people. I need to have connections with colleagues. I need to, in order for me to feel like, to be more fulfilled, I need that
Yeah.
connection. Some people don't need as much as that, as much as I need. But I know when I work on that and I have a connection with a client where I'm invited to their daughter's wedding, 15 years later, to me, I'm like, that's what was really important to me, was that connection with that person. They happen to be part of my business, but also we made that connection. To me, that fulfills me. But
Right.
some people don't. When you find that, you can find in any situation, you can find what's going to feed your personality and what's going to
Right.
feed your purpose. Every situation will
Right.
uncover something, and that's what I.
Right. But you got to know what that is. Like you always have to know
Yeah.
what that is so that you're coming back to that all the time as your base. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why I love a Monday. Some people don't like Mondays.
Yeah.
Even when I was a kid, I love a Monday because I know this week there are connections and opportunities I have yet to uncover. And to me, I find that fascinating. I'm like, I'm going to go find them. That's me. That's why
Hmm.
not that I don't love my weekends, but I do love a Monday. So this call happens to be on a Monday right now, which is really
Yeah.
feeding my soul. So thank you, Susan.
Yes. Good. Yes. I love a Monday for different reasons. But but I can see understand what you mean. It's like mine is more the organizing my week here this day, so I can kind of be ready for it to unfold. Do you know what I
Well,
mean?
you're putting your systems and structures in place so you
Mhm.
can have you are ready to for that to unfold. So yeah,
Right.
you're part of the Monday
Yeah.
Club too.
Yes. Well, thanks for meeting me on Monday, and really great to hear from you. And I really do think these little tidbits will help people find their structure, find their authentic self for a little bit, and remember who they are. I think that would be the most amazing part of it. So
Thank you,
thank you
Susan.
for sharing.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Okay, hope to see you again on my podcast maybe next year. We'll see where you went.
We'll see
Okay.
you. Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye-bye.